Gumshoes. Welcome to episode 2 of the Greatest Gumshoe podcast. First of all, wow. Episode 1 was a huge success. Everyone really got involved and started their own investigations. At this point, if you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, you might want to go back and listen so you don't miss any really helpful information on the case. We've also shared some photos that might be a great aid on Facebook and Instagram, so make sure you swing by there as well. In today's episode, we want to get to know Mariah Collins a little better, but in order to really do that, we have to recap on what life was like for her. 2005 doesn't seem like that long ago until you do the math. It's been 13 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall and Mariah met her mysterious fate. Back then, everything was a little cheaper. You could go to the movies for $6.41 and get a gallon of gas for $2.27. People were clamoring for movies like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, an action movie / romantic comedy that paired Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie as a couple of married assassins. Coincidentally, it's the same year that Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston would file for divorce. I was a teenager in 2005, so I was way more focused on the release of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Which, actually, I'm really curious about what Hogwarts house dominates the gumshoe community. I'm a Gryffindor and Melissa's a Slytherin, so that's all you really need to know about us. 2005 also gave us YouTube and Grey's Anatomy, and everyone was dying for the latest Motorola Razr. And Carrie Underwood won American Idol. Anybody else feeling old? Just me? Alright, moving on. Knowing a little bit more about the world she was living in and the cost of things gives us a little insight on what kind of lifestyle Mariah could have been living. I imagine her watching American Idol and being totally Team Jennifer Aniston. It was a pretty eventful year, and Hurricane Katrina was no exception. It's a storm that makes the top 10 list for almost every hurricane metric that meteorologists collect, from intensity and severity to the number of tornadoes that spawned in its wake. It's tied for the first place as the costliest hurricane on record, with 2017's Hurricane Harvey. Before her death, Mariah was working as a waitress at Pop's, a small diner that mostly catered to locals. Depending on tips, Mariah made about $200 a week, which didn't go very far after she paid her rent. That's why she needed a roommate. Mariah and Lily met at a local community college outside Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and after a few months decided to be roommates so that they could split the cost of an apartment. Like Mariah, Lily is a waitress. At the time of Mariah's disappearance, the two girls were working opposite shifts. Mariah liked to work during the day so she could spend time doing the things she enjoyed at night. Lily, on the other hand, liked the livelihood of working nights because she liked the tips and the lifestyle. Right before Katrina, Lily was serving at a local diner right near the end of Bourbon Street and often brought home some pretty shoddy characters. This wasn't something that Mariah cared for, and I can't say I blame her. I wouldn't want a bunch of strangers parading in and out of my house either. So, next up, we want to go over pictures of Mariah's room that we got a hold of that really shed light on what Mariah was like. Looking at pictures of her room shows us that Mariah was just a typical 22-year-old. She liked to read, as there's a stack of books on her bedside table with a journal. The room looks very neat and tidy, except for a small pile of clothes on the floor. The shoes are lined in the corner. A towel is folded over the back of a folding chair, and yes, I do mean actually folded, and not just thrown on there. She has a brightly colored hairbrush, some hair ties, some makeup, and a small makeup mirror on her vanity with a makeup bag. Something fun I noticed that I really related to is that there were several post-it notes and gel pens laying around. Anybody remember gel pens? I was obsessed with them, especially the ones that showed up on the fun black notebook paper that was popular for a while. She had a purse hanging on the back of her door that must have been more of an everyday purse or one she didn't use daily. It's empty except for a few crumpled receipts and a few strips of loose chewing gum. There was also a small shower caddy in the corner by the shoes with toiletries, which leads me to think that she wasn't keeping her stuff in the bathroom. That feels very much like something a college-age girl might do. Lastly, the only other thing that jumped out at me after looking at these pictures was a lockbox that's visible under Mariah's bed. There's no indication of what might be in the box. We can all ponder that together. Since we last spoke, we've been able to get our hands on the autopsy findings And guys, it's heartbreaking. The body of a Caucasian American female was collected by coroner William Lanois on October 3rd, 2005. The body was originally identified as Mariah Collins based on the driver's license found nearby in her purse. Her parents would later confirm her identity. The manner of death is noted to be homicide by strangulation. There were slight visible bruises around the neck. However, the body submerging in water for 3 weeks really did a number on her skin. She was unrecognizable. Think about when you soak in a tub for just an hour what your skin does. This was much more magnified. The skin was very loose and had started to fall off in places. Insects were present on the body, however the typical larvae were not present as the hurricane had caused a slight change in the area. The main indication of strangulation was that the hyoid bone in the back of her throat at the back of the tongue was ruptured, which happens when something tightens around the neck. There were also ligatures and teeth marks present on the back of the tongue, which is also an indicator of strangulation. There were not other identifiers of trauma on the body. She was seemingly healthy otherwise. There were minimal defensive wounds, mostly just a few small scratches on her arms. Her clothes were mostly intact, however they were extremely dirty. She had on a very worn New Orleans Saints black and gold t-shirt. The cap sleeve on her left arm did seem to be torn off, but otherwise, the only other note about her top was a small hole near the hem. That could have easily already been there. She did have a good bit of dirt and weeds on her from having been in the water. Her safety shorts were seemingly unaffected. Some dirt was collected from under her nails, but no indication of DNA being found. We also got a list of evidence that law enforcement was able to collect at the scene. A small purse with only a wallet containing her ID, a debit card, and about $20 in cash. A small rolling suitcase with 4 shirts, 4 pairs of pants, shorts and jeans, several pair of underwear, bras, and socks, a toothbrush, toothpaste, a small makeup bag with a bottle of foundation, chapstick, and eyeshadow, and the most confusing find for me is several cans of wet dog food. All of the findings in the luggage seemed to say that she wasn't planning to stay at her parents' for very long. Remember, Katrina wasn't supposed to be that bad, and many people had very little time to prepare before evacuating. So, something we'd like to start doing every episode is answer a few listener questions related to the case. While we won't give away what happened to Mariah directly, we'd love to hear what questions you're pondering about the case so far. This week's questions came from Katie. Her first question is, what trucking company does Mr. Warren drive for? Richard Warren drives locally for a trucking company that deals mainly with perishable goods that need to be refrigerated. He often works very long days, 10 to 12 hours, depending on company needs, and this caused strain in his previous marriage. Katie's second question is it true that the levees broke after the storm hit and not during? Well, that's a hard one, Katie. From everything I can find, the levees broke on August 29th, 2005, which is the day that Katrina hit New Orleans. There were about 50 failures in the levees around the city. I can't really find an exact time noted anywhere, but by 9 a.m. on the 29th, it was known that the levees had broken. So essentially, the storm passed through at 6, and by 9 a.m., everything was underwater. I hope that gives you some insight. Thanks, Katie, for submitting those questions. So that's all the evidence we have for you this week, Gumshoes. Make sure to stop by our social media pages at Greatest Gumshoe on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to see pictures of Mariah's room. We'll be posting more polls this week to see where we should investigate next. Also, don't forget to leave us a review if you're enjoying the show so far. This really helps grow the community, which in turn allows us to put more time and detail into each episode. Thanks so much to everyone who's been listening so far. We love seeing how many of you are excited to solve this case. See you later, Gumshoes.